Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're the show that tries to sift through, mountains of information to get you the insights you actually need.
Hopefully making you feel truly informed.
Exactly. And today, we are plunging headfirst into a cultural phenomenon that it's pretty much captured the global imagination, K-pop. I mean, from those super catchy tunes that just pop up everywhere in your social media feeds to these massive stadium concerts selling out on the other side of the world, K-pop is, undeniably a global force.
It's really quite something to watch, isn't it? What started out, as a national music scene in South Korea has just exploded. It's become this cultural powerhouse.
Yeah.
And it's redefining not just how we consume music, but also the whole dynamic of fan culture, even international relations, weirdly enough.
Right. So our mission in this deep dive is to really get beyond the surface, beyond the perfect dance moves and the amazing visuals. We're going to try and unpack its incredible global spread, take a close look at its very unique, sometimes really intense fan culture, and also delve into the complex, sometimes sort of hidden realities of what's a really demanding industry.
And as we peel back those layers, we'll also explore its surprising but actually increasingly important role in diplomacy, international diplomacy.
Yeah, which is fascinating. So to help us navigate all this, we've pulled together insights and really interesting facts from a whole bunch of different sources.
Right.
Everything from serious academic studies and major news articles to really candid fan discussions you see on places like Reddit.
Yeah, those can be revealing.
Totally. And even deep dives into its history on sites like Wikipedia. The goal here is to give you a really comprehensive, well-rounded picture.
Absolutely. It's about connecting the dots, isn't it? Across all this information to really get a handle on the impact and sort of the mechanics behind K-pop's rise.
Okay, so where do we start? Let's begin maybe with just understanding the basics of this global wave.
Sounds good. So as you said, K-pop in its modern form anyway, it comes from South Korea. But its journey from just being a local genre to this global thing is totally tied up with the rise of the Korean wave, or Hallyu.
Hallyu, yeah.
And this isn't just music being shipped out. It's about a much broader cultural demand that spread everywhere, creating this kind of unique global appetite for, all things Korean.
And what's really striking about that spread is how the fan culture itself has amplified everything.
Oh, definitely. This isn't passive listening at all. It's intensely participatory.
Like the choreography.
Exactly. Take the choreography. A new K-pop song drops. Fans don't just listen. They actively, dedicate serious time to mastering the dance moves.
You see those dance cover videos everywhere online.
Constantly. Fans meticulously copy the choreography. They share the progress. They even teach each other. It creates this incredibly engaged, active community that basically acts as its own marketing network. It's organic.
That active participation really does seem to set K-pop apart. And it's not just the dancing, right? Fans show their devotion by buying albums, obviously, but also tons of merchandise.
And this isn't just a small side thing. It's a huge revenue stream for the industry and a very clear sign of just how engaged these fans are.
Like the light sticks, those official group light sticks.
Yeah. Each one unique to a group. You see them at concerts, lighting up the whole arena in these coordinated displays. It's visually stunning.
Or the photo cards that come with albums, the limited editions. It's all designed to foster that deep connection, right?
Yeah.
And encourage people to keep interacting, keep buying. It turns consuming music into this, personal collective ritual.
And then you have the whole social media ecosystem. K-pop fandom absolutely thrives online.
Right.
Platforms where fans connect across borders, share everything, news, fan art, translations. They organize these huge fan projects, celebrate their idols together. This digital space builds a really powerful sense of shared identity. It turns individual listeners into a global movement.
And one of the most unique things, I think, something that makes K-pop concerts just different, is the fan chant.
Oh, yeah. Fan chants are amazing.
If you've ever been to a K-pop concert, or even just watched videos, you know what I mean. During specific parts of the song, usually when the idols aren't singing, the whole audience erupts in these synchronized chants.
It's usually the members' names, right? Or key phrases from the song.
Exactly. And it's not just random yelling. It's pre-planned, perfectly timed. It's like a performance by the audience.
It transforms the whole thing into this shared, almost collaborative experience. The scale of it. Thousands of people chanting in unison. It's incredible energy.
Totally. It really lifts the whole experience.
And this active participatory nature is just fundamental. You have to understand this to get K-pop's global dominance. It basically turns listeners into collaborators. The fandom itself is a central part of the whole K-pop experience.
Yeah, it shifts that traditional dynamic, doesn't it? Like on a lot of Western music, the audience is mostly just receiving.
Right, passive. But in K-pop, the audience feels like an active co-creator, investing time, energy, creativity right alongside the idols.
So if that super engaged fan culture is the heart, then the digital platforms must be the circulatory system, like pumping it around the world.
That's a great analogy. And YouTube, particularly, played a huge pioneering role. Think about this. Back in December 2011, K-pop became the very first country-specific music genre to get its own dedicated homepage on YouTube.
Wow, that early.
Yeah, that was massive early recognition of its potential. It signaled, a strategic bet by YouTube itself.
And that platform recognition was obviously critical. It didn't just acknowledge K-pop, it actively helped it spread like wildfire.
Absolutely. It set the stage for some truly mind-blowing records. We all remember Psy's Gangnam Style.
Oh yeah, December 2012. Unavoidable.
Right. It wasn't just a hit song, it became the first YouTube video ever to hit 1 billion views.
1 billion.
That was just unprecedented at the time, especially for a non-Western artist. It showed that these digital channels could create global phenomena completely outside the traditional media system.
Exactly, bypassing radio, TV, all of it. And the records just kept falling after that, like Blackpink.
Yep. November 2019, Blackpink's Do 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 Do. That was the first music video by a K-pop group to hit 1 billion views. Showed the genre's sustained growth.
And then BTS came along and just smashed everything.
Oh yeah, Butter. In May 2021, set the record for the most viewed online music video in the first 24 hours, over 108 million views.
108 million in a day.
Yeah.
And you said that record still stands as of August 2024.
That's right. It just underscores the sheer sustained power of K-pop's digital footprint.
And it wasn't just YouTube, right? Other platforms were crucial too.
Definitely. Formerly Twitter and TikTok have been just as important in cementing K-pop's place globally.
BTS on Twitter is huge. How many followers?
Over 10 million, easily. Probably way more now. And they kept winning Billboard's Top Social Artist Award, which is all about fan engagement.
Right, that award is fan-voted.
Exactly. It highlights that direct connection, that immediate feedback loop between idols and fans. It creates this sense of intimacy, and it's a platform for collective action, trending hashtags, fan campaigns, charity drives.
And TikTok. How did that change things? It's so much faster, shorter content.
TikTok added another layer of virality, mostly through challenges and trends, K-pop choreography. It's so visual, right? And it often has these really catchy, repeatable hooks.
Perfect for TikTok.
Totally suited for it. Songs and dances blow up as trends really fast, reaching totally new audiences, younger audiences, who might not even be looking for K-pop.
So it's more about discovery through the algorithm.
Yeah, it kind of democratized discovery. K-pop just becomes part of your feed organically. It created this whole new entry point for millions.
It really makes you wonder, how did these platforms let K-pop just sidestep the traditional gatekeepers? Radio, TV, the established music industry. How do they reach a global audience so directly?
It's a fundamental shift. These platforms basically gave access to everyone. A music genre from South Korea could find its audience anywhere in the world, just fueled by algorithms and fans sharing stuff.
And creating its own distribution network.
Exactly. Organic, but incredibly powerful. Something traditional media just couldn't match for speed or scale. And that direct connection, it fostered a more, authentic feeling relationship between artists and fans. Geography just dissolved as a barrier.
Yeah.
What it really signals is a change in how cultural stuff gets consumed globally. It's not passive anymore. It's a shared thing where the audience isn't just receiving, they're actively part of making it happen. Like we said, it changes that whole artist-fan dynamic.
But that direct connection, while great for growth, it also leads to some tricky aspects of fandom, doesn't it? It's not all positive.
No, definitely not. It ranges from incredibly passionate and creative to, unfortunately, quite problematic at times.
There was that research you mentioned, looking at young urban Indian women and their relationship with BTS.
Right. That study highlighted different fan types. You have your passionate fans who are deeply invested, spending a lot of time and money, and then the moderate fans who enjoy the music but maybe aren't as deep into all the fandom activities.
And how did they typically get into K-pop?
Well, primarily, as we discussed, social media, but also significantly through friends and even family recommendations.
Interesting.
And one interesting demographic point from that research was that women seem to be more regular and active K-pop consumers than men. Gives you a clear idea of the core audience driving a lot of this.
But then there's the darker side. We have to talk about the sasang fans.
Yeah, sasang. Comes from the Korean for private life, and it refers to these obsessive fans who cross the line into stalking really invasive, sometimes illegal behavior towards the idols.
And the examples are pretty disturbing.
They really are. Our sources mention things like fans trying to get idols' attention through extreme, sometimes violent means, assaulting them, trying to install hidden cameras, breaking into their private spaces, dorms, cars.
That's not fandom, that's harassment. Straight up.
Absolutely. And it's significant that Korean public officials actually acknowledge this as a unique and serious problem. They recognize the distress, this kind of obsessive behavior, often fueled by those intense parasocial relationships, causes the idols.
That blurring of lines between just admiring someone and actually harassing them, it leads right into the pressures within the industry, doesn't it? And the impact on mental health.
Precisely, which is a whole other complex area we need to unpack.
Okay, so building on that understanding of fan culture, the good and the bad, let's maybe shift focus to where K-pop really landed geographically. Let's look at its footprint across different continents. Maybe start with East Asia. The relationships there seem complex.
Definitely complex.
Yeah.
Let's take Japan. After World War II, there were restrictions on cultural imports from Korea, but those were lifted in the late 90s.
Right.
And K-pop moved in pretty quickly. The first generation group, SES, they debuted in Japan in late 98, kind of laid the groundwork.
But Boe was the real game changer, wasn't she?
Oh, absolutely. Her debut in 2002 was strategically brilliant. She learned Japanese before her Korean debut.
So she could be marketed almost as a J-pop artist.
Exactly. Not just a foreign act. And it worked. Her album, Listen to My Heart, hit #1 on the Oricon charts, the big Japanese chart. She became an RIAJ-certified million seller. That was huge for a Korean singer back then. Paved the way for so many others.
That was smart. Just blurring the lines for wider acceptance. And other big groups followed, right? TVXQ, Shiny.
Yeah, TVXQ, SS501, Shiny. They all found major success in Japan, really cementing K-pop's commercial presence. By 2011, K-pop was pulling in, get this, $349 billion, won just from Japan.
Wow. That's a serious amount of money from one country.
Yeah.
Shows how crucial Japan was early on.
But here's the nuance. Despite all that success, anti-Hallyu movements exist in Japan.
Really? Why?
For some, the sheer influence of Korean culture feels like a threat to Japanese culture, leads to protests, calls for restrictions. Yet, paradoxically, the influence is so deep now that Japanese kids are actively trying to become K-pop idols themselves, auditioning for Korean companies. It's this weird push-pull dynamic.
Fascinating contradiction. Okay, what about China? Another huge market.
Right. Wonder Girls made efforts to break into China around 2010, and there were big financial ties. Chinese companies like Alibaba invested heavily in Korean entertainment giants like SM Entertainment. They saw the potential.
But politics got in the way.
Big time. In 2016, South Korea's decision about deploying the THAAD missile defense system, well, China reacted strongly. It led to what was basically a Hallyu ban, severe restrictions on Korean cultural stuff.
Ouch. That must have hurt the K-pop industry.
It did. It significantly impacted their ability to make money in China, forced them to rely even more heavily on Japan for international revenue. And just like Japan, there's anti-Hallyu sentiment in China, too. Shows how easily cultural exchange gets tangled up into geopolitics.
And then there's North Korea, which is just a whole different story. Surprising, kind of tumultuous relationship there.
Totally surprising. Remember 2018? There's that incredible moment of, diplomatic opening. Kim Jong-un himself went to a concert in Pyongyang.
Featuring South Korean artists.
Yeah, 150 of them, including Red Velvet, who are huge globally, and the veteran singer Cho Young-pil. Reports said Kim was deeply moved.
Wow. That's monumental. A North Korean leader at a South Korean pop concert.
First time ever. And apparently, the South Korean artists even performed with North Korean artists later that week. And the North Koreans didn't ask for any changes to lyrics or dance moves or anything for the public shows.
That sounds like a real thaw, a moment of cultural connection.
It really felt like it. Recordings were even released in South Korea later, a rare bit of cultural bridge building.
What then? It didn't last, did it?
Not at all. Stark reversal. Just 3 years later, 2021, Kim Jong-un completely changed his tune. He called K-pop a vicious cancer.
What? A vicious cancer.
Yep. Said it was a threat to North Korean society, that it could make our young people depraved.
That's dramatic. What
Okay.
explains that whiplash?
It just highlights how unpredictable cultural diplomacy can be, especially with a regime like North Korea's. And despite the official ban, K-pop still gets in.
Huh.
Mostly smuggled USB drives. Shows that culture finds a way, even across the tightest borders. But it also shows how soft power can be seen as both a tool and a threat, depending on the political climate.
Wild. Okay, let's move south. Southeast Asia, seems like K-pop took off really fast there.
Extremely fast adoption, deep influence. Take Singapore. It's become a real hub. Big companies like Attract and YG Entertainment hold auditions there.
Looking for talent.
Exactly. And there's even a K-pop international school opening soon, a collaboration between a local college and SOPA in Seoul, the famous performing arts school that trains idols.
Wow.
Just earlier this year, over 120 teenage girls, mostly Singaporean, auditioned for Attract's new group, 50/50. Shows a real talent pipeline.
What about Malaysia?
Huge in Malaysia, popular across all the major ethnic groups, Malay, Chinese, Indian. Malaysian companies are cashing in, making local merch. And get this, politicians have even brought K-pop idols over to try and attract young voters.
Seriously, using K-pop for political campaigning.
Apparently so. And the cultural impact is deep. Something like 80% of Malaysian fans surveyed said they started learning Korean because of their interest in the culture. That's more than just liking music.
That's significant cultural absorption. Indonesia.
Similar story. K-pop, along with K-dramas and movies, is a massive part of youth culture in all the major cities, and it's directly influencing local Indonesian music trends, production styles.
Philippines. I know K-dramas were big there early on.
Yeah, Korean telenovelas started airing way back in 2003. K-pop caught on a bit later, mainly through the internet and also through Korean celebs who were based there, like Sundara Park from 2NE1. She had a big following there already. Super Junior held a concert there way back in 2010. So early interest was definitely strong.
And Vietnam. They have strong historical ties with South Korea, right?
They do.
Yeah.
And Vietnam's been super receptive to Hallyu. Their own pop music, V-pop, is heavily influenced by K-pop. The production, the catchy sound, the music video aesthetics. Hanoi hosted the Music Bank World Tour in 2015, a big K-pop show. And collaborations between V-pop and K-pop stars happen pretty often.
It seems like in Southeast Asia, K-pop really provided a sort of blueprint for local pop music industries.
In many ways, yes. It set a new standard for production and performance that local artists aspired to.
Okay, so let's broaden out even further. Beyond Asia, how did K-pop break through in the West? North America, for example.
2012 was a really big year for that breakthrough in the U.S.
Right, you mentioned Girls' Generation on Letterman and Live.
Yep.
With Kelly.
Yeah, first Korean musical act on U.S. syndicated TV. Huge deal. Their subunit charted on the Billboard 200. We saw big concerts by SM Town, 2NE1, Big Bang selling out venues.
And Psy with Madonna at Madison Square Garden.
Iconic moment. He even said later that performing with Madonna topped his list of career highlights. Just shows the cultural weight of that moment.
And this led to more mainstream recognition.
Undeniably. Billboard launched Billboard K-Town in 2013, their dedicated K-pop column. FX played at SXSW, the big music festival. And Kesa On events in LA and New York became these massive annual gatherings, more like conventions than just concerts.
Tens of thousands of fans.
Yeah, huge crowds. Then came BTS and Blackpink, taking it to a whole other level.
BTS's Wings album did really well in the U.S.
Highest charting, best-selling K-pop album in the U.S. at the time. Then Dynamite, their all-English song, hit #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. That was a landmark.
And Blackpink also charting high on the Hot 100 and Billboard 200. They weren't just niche anymore.
Not at all. They became household names, collaborating with major Western artists, really embedding themselves in global pop.
What about Mexico? You said their entry point was kind of unique.
Yeah, really interesting. A lot of the initial exposure came from Japanese media, but also from Pump It Up arcade games.
Dance games.
Exactly. Those games used Korean software and music, so Mexican youth got exposed to Korean pop culture that way. Kind of unexpected. And Mexico was the first Latin American country to host KCON back in 2017. Drew over 33,000 fans, way more than expected. And there are apparently over 70 active fan clubs with something like 30,000 members promoting K-pop across Mexico. Shows that real grassroots growth.
Okay, across the Atlantic to Europe, how did K-pop gain traction there?
It was maybe a bit steadier, but definitely made its mark. Early signs were their Huangbo's song topping a European download chart in 2009, big tours like SM Town and Super Junior hitting Paris around 2010.
And more concerts followed.
Yeah, Rain was the first K-pop artist in Germany in 2011. Then JYJ Beast 4-Minute Big Bang. Big Bang actually won Best Worldwide Act at the MTV EMAs in 2011. That's major recognition outside Asia.
And the fans were passionate.
Extremely. In 2012, Chinese concert in London apparently caused chaos at the airport because so many fans showed up, and the ticket systems crashed from demand. Clearly showed a strong European fan base was forming.
That's a pretty clear signal. And BTS charted in the UK, too.
Yep, Wings hit the UK albums chart in 2016, first Korean album to do so. More recently, that K-pop Flex Festival in Frankfurt in 2022, 65,000 fans.
65,000 for how many countries?
Over 80 countries, shows its massive pan-European appeal. And maybe the ultimate sign of making it K-pop got added to the French dictionary Larousse in 2022.
Wow. It's officially part of the language. What about Russia?
Russia jumped on the Hallyu wave pretty early, too. They had K-pop cover dance festivals back in 2011. SHINee members were even judges. A K-pop magazine launched there in 2012, reporting over 50,000 fans already. And concerts have continued with various artists.
In Africa and Oceania.
Yeah.
Still finding influence there.
Definitely growing. In Africa, there was even a Nigerian K-drama movie released recently, Mr. Sunshine. Shows local adaptation. South Africa is apparently a key market. Fans really drawn to the whole package. The music, the visuals, the production, the performances of groups like BTS, Blackpink, NCT.
Oceania, Australia, New Zealand.
Yeah, lots of local dance cover groups have popped up, like AO Crew, I Am I Dance. They perform, teach K-pop choreography, building a local scene. And some big idols are Australian Hani from New Jeans, Felix and Bang Chan from Stray Kids.
Right. Shows that global talent draw.
Exactly. Saisi visited Australia back in 2012 during the Gangnam Style craze. And recently, major groups like Twice, IVE, ITZY, Stray Kids, P1 Harmony, Epic High have all toured there. Clearly a growing active market.
So looking back at all that, it's just incredible how diverse the pathways were. It wasn't just one strategy.
Not at all. Big tours, yes, but also influencing local music, unexpected things like arcade games. It's this multi-pronged, really adaptable spread, often using whatever cultural channels were already there.
Yeah, it really demonstrates how culture moves in the digital age. It's not monolithic. It adapts, finds unique routes in each place, often completely bypassing old industry structures.
Highlights K-pop's versatility and the power of digital platforms to create these localized yet globally connected fandoms.
Okay, but this brings us to a really important and sometimes difficult part of the story. Behind that super polished, perfect image, there are some very real human costs, right? Some big industry challenges.
This is crucial to understand.
Let's start with the trainee system, the rigors, the exploitation concerns.
Yeah, this is probably one of the most talked about and frankly concerning parts of the industry. You have young kids, sometimes barely teens, basically groomed for stardom by these entertainment companies.
They often leave their families.
For years, intense training, uncertain future, no guarantee they'll ever debut. Sources talk about incredibly long hours, very little sleep, and reports of mental and physical abuse being part of the package. It's an extraordinarily high-pressure environment. Kids sacrificing their childhoods for a shot at fame.
And the money side is complicated too, isn't it? The whole trainee debt idea.
Very complicated and heavily criticized. The companies basically lend money to cover all the training costs, living, lessons, classes, languages, even surgery sometimes.
And the trainees owe that back.
Yeah, they have to pay it back once they debut, which means their initial earnings, sometimes for years, just go straight back to the company to cover this debt.
That sounds precarious.
It's been compared starkly by some sources to things like indentured servitude, or even historical parallels like sharecropping or old coal mining towns where workers got paid in credits only usable at the company's store. Basically a system that can trap them in debt.
And the pressure doesn't stop there. What about the extreme diet culture, especially for female idols?
Oh, that's another huge pressure point. Many female idols reportedly face immense pressure from CEOs, from management, from the public to maintain impossibly low weights.
Like that 45-kilogram target weight, around 99 pounds.
Exactly, which is widely seen as unhealthy, even dangerous for many body types. It leads to idols literally fainting from fatigue, a visible sign of overwork and malnutrition.
It sounds brutal. Is that linked to broader Korean societal pressures?
You could argue that. You see similar intense pressure in academics, for example, students studying insane hours for exams. It reflects a culture that sometimes values extreme dedication and self-sacrifice above all else.
And plastic surgery pressure, too.
Mm-hmm. Idols often get surgery either because of relentless online bullying about their looks or because the industry basically demands they conform to a certain, often very narrow beauty standard.
It paints a picture of a system pushing people to really extreme lengths, physically and emotionally, just to fit an ideal.
It really makes you question the human cost behind that flawless image we see. It's a reminder that the perfection on stage often comes from immense sacrifice, intense control, and a system that pushes people, often very young people, right to their limits.
And that kind of pressure inevitably impacts mental health.
Hugely. Which brings us to mental health challenges and also these complex things called parasocial relationships.
Right. The industry pressures the constant watch, the crazy schedules, the invasive fans sometimes, plus the often unrealistic expectations.
Mhm.
These are all cited as major factors contributing to serious mental health problems.
And tragically, in some cases, even suicide among K-pop artists, which is just heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Now, it's important to say, while this is a very serious concern in K-pop, it's sadly not unique to it. You see similar pressures and issues across the global entertainment industry.
Sure.
And mental health support in Korea generally is still an ongoing challenge. Suicide rates among young people are high, so there's a broader context here, too.
Okay, so let's clarify parasocial relationships, PSRs. What are they exactly?
It's a term from way back in 1956, actually. Psychologists Horton and Voll coined it. It basically describes the one-sided relationships people form with media figures.
Like celebrities, idols,
Yeah.
people you don't actually know.
Exactly. You feel the sense of intimacy, connection, closeness because you see so much of them through media, but it's entirely one-sided. The idol doesn't know you back.
And this can contribute to the obsessive fan behavior, like the sasaengs.
It certainly can. That deep psychological attachment, if it becomes extreme, can fuel that kind of behavior. Fans might feel they know the idol, develop a sense of entitlement, maybe even ownership. That leads to invasive actions because that line between public persona and private person gets completely blurred in their minds.
It makes you think, doesn't it? How the K-pop system itself, with all the curated content, the vlogs, the social media, the direct messages, how that fosters these intense, one-sided bonds.
It's almost built into the model. That feeling of accessibility, of intimacy. It's great for engagement, for marketing.
But potentially problematic for the idols.
Absolutely. It creates huge expectations, this feeling of being constantly on, constantly available, under scrutiny. It must be incredibly draining.
Okay, let's shift slightly to creative control. There's this common stereotype, right, that K-pop stars have zero say. They're just puppets.
Yeah, the manufactured pop label, that they're just possessions of the company, every little detail controlled.
But is that actually true anymore? Or was it ever entirely true?
Well, what's fascinating is how much that stereotype seems to be, well, increasingly false or at least outdated for many groups. Lots of really prominent K-pop groups are known for having significant creative input.
Like
Groups like BTS, obviously, but also 17, GIDLE, Big Bang, CLC, Pentagon, Day6, Stray Kids, even Twice. Members in these groups are often heavily involved in songwriting, composing, choreography, planning promotions, even parts of music video production.
So they're not just performers, they're co-creators.
In many cases, yes, it really challenges that idea that it's all just handed down from the company.
So that raises the question, is manufactured pop automatically less artistic?
That's a great question. I mean, think about the sheer skill involved, the incredible synchronization and the dancing, like that Luna Butterfly dance practice you mentioned. It's breathtaking precision.
And singing live while doing that choreography, that's incredibly difficult.
Extremely. It takes immense talent, dedication, years of relentless practice. The level of polish in K-pop isn't necessarily a lack of artistry. It's maybe a different kind of artistry.
Focused on performance, precision, spectacle.
Exactly. It values synchronization, visual impact, emotional delivery through performance. It's a highly specialized skill, often more collaborative and structured maybe than some other genres, but it requires incredible talent and discipline. It's just a different creative process.
Okay, finally in this section on challenges, we need to touch on some really serious ethical concerns. The sexualization of minors. for one.
Yes. This is deeply troubling. Sources point to instances of adults sexualizing idols who are minors, making inappropriate jokes, shipping them in sexual ways, even countdowns until they become illegal. It's abhorrent.
And normalizes really dangerous attitudes towards children.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, while this is clearly an issue highlighted in K-pop discussions, it's important to remember, again, the historical parallels in the West.
Right? Britney Spears, the Olsen twins, Brooke Shields, young stars facing similar issues in Hollywood and Western pop.
Exactly. Billie Piper, the Russian duo TATU. It suggests this isn't exclusively a K-pop problem, but a systemic issue within the broader entertainment industry's treatment of young talent. Still awful wherever it happens.
And there have been even more serious accusations about prostitution rings.
Yes. Our sources mention these accusations that some companies or CEOs used trainees or idols to lure foreign investors involving coercion. These are extremely serious claims.
It's important to be careful here, right? Sources note these sometimes get conflated with other scandals, and some fans strongly dispute them as isolated incidents or exaggerations.
Right. We're reporting what the sources discuss as part of the dark side narrative that circulates, reflecting real concerns raised in media and fan communities, but acknowledging the contention around them.
But on a potentially more positive note, is the industry showing signs of addressing some of these issues, particularly mental health?
There are reports indicating some positive changes, a growing awareness, especially after some high-profile tragedies. Mental illness is reportedly being taken more seriously by some companies. Some now apparently have dedicated support systems, even doctors on site for artists.
So maybe slow steps towards a more supportive environment.
Hopefully. It suggests an effort to respond to the criticism and the clear human cost, though obviously there's likely still a long way to go.
Okay, let's shift gears completely now. Section 4. K-pop as soft power and diplomacy. This is where it goes beyond entertainment and becomes like an international player.
Yeah, it's acting as this unofficial ambassador for South Korea, and it's often called a double-edged sword in terms of diplomacy.
Okay, explain soft power in this context.
So soft power is about influencing others through attraction and persuasion, rather than coercion like military or economic threats. K-pop helps South Korea do this by projecting this appealing image globally.
What kind of image?
Often a clean image, ideals of beauty, politeness, modern sophistication. It encourages fans worldwide to feel positively about Korea, which then leads them to buy Korean products, learn the language, want to visit. It creates this positive feedback loop.
And that has real economic benefits.
Definitely. K-pop contributes significantly to the economy, direct sales, sure, but also boosting tourism hugely.
Yeah.
Foreign visitor numbers to South Korea have apparently quadrupled since Hallyu really took off. And it can also help improve relationships within Asia, fostering cultural understanding where formal diplomacy might be trickier.
And this influence goes beyond economics, right?
Yeah.
Into global awareness,
Yeah.
even politics.
Absolutely. Look at BTS speaking at the UN General Assembly.
Right, they did that twice.
Yep. First K-pop group ever, 73rd session in 2018, then again at the 76th in 2021. They used that massive global stage to talk about really important issues.
Like what?
Youth empowerment, climate change, the importance of vaccines during the pandemic. They reached millions, especially young people who might not normally tune into UN speeches.
So what does that tell us? About culture crossing boundaries and influencing global conversations.
It shows how powerful pop culture can be as an informal communication channel. BTS makes these huge global issues feel more relatable, more personal to their massive fan base. It turns abstract policy into something people connect with emotionally. It's a different kind of diplomacy altogether.
Operating outside the usual government channels.
Exactly. Leveraging that emotional connection and cultural appeal, it shows influence isn't just about military or economic power. It can be built through shared culture.
But here's the double-edged part, right? The political sensitivities, anti-Hallyu movements.
Precisely. Because these idols are so popular, so visible globally, they become these unofficial diplomats almost by default.
Meaning their actions, even personal ones, can have political ripple effects.
Huge ones. They're, as one source called them, unqualified carriers of diplomacy. Their actions can accidentally spark disputes or make existing tensions worse.
Are there specific examples of that?
Yeah, remember the incident in 2016? Tsuyu, a Taiwanese member of the group Twice, waved Taiwan's flag on a Korean TV show. She was only 16.
Oh, right. That caused a huge backlash from Chinese nationalists, didn't it?
Massive backlash. But at the same time, huge support from Taiwanese people. It became this big political flashpoint, all from one small action.
And Chinese idols in K-pop have faced controversy, too.
Mm-hmm. In 2021, some Chinese idols congratulated the Chinese Communist Party online, which stirred up a lot of criticism from international fans. Shows the tightrope they walk between national identity, fan expectations, and politics.
And we mentioned the anti-Hallyu movements in China and Japan earlier, where the popularity itself is seen as a threat.
Exactly. It shows that cultural influence isn't always welcomed with open arms. It can provoke nationalist backlash, protectionism. Culture becomes a battleground.
So here's an interesting point from the sources. Why is it sometimes easier to resolve these disputes when the idols aren't officially appointed ambassadors?
It seems the informal nature gives more flexibility. If an idol messes up or causes controversy, the government can kind of distance itself, say it's a private matter.
Yeah.
It's less politically charged than if an official diplomat misspoke.
Yep.
Offers plausible deniability, maybe?
Interesting. Allows for more nimble responses. Now, thinking about the audience, Gen Z fans are often really aware of social issues, right? And very active on social media. How does that amplify these political dimensions?
That's a key factor. Younger fans are often more attuned to global issues, more willing to speak out. They engage with these political controversies through their fandom. K-pop then becomes this vehicle, this space for political discussion, debate, even activism among fans globally.
Turning passive fans into active commentators or protesters.
It can, yeah. Fan campaigns, boycotts. It raises the stakes for idols and companies. It's this fascinating intersection of pop culture and digital activism, really showing how political discourse is changing, often bubbling up from these online fan communities.
Okay, so wrapping things up, what does this all mean for you, our listener? We've covered a lot of ground. The incredible global reach, the unique fan culture, the tough industry realities.
And K-pop's surprising role in international relations, both positive and contentious.
Right. So understanding K-pop, it really isn't just about the music, is it? It's like this lens.
Exactly. A lens to understand globalization, the complexities of the modern entertainment world, how fandom is evolving, how soft power works in our super-connected digital age. It's like a microcosm of so many bigger trends.
So the final thought to leave you with. What does K-pop, this incredibly polished, hyper-competitive, globally adored cultural export, really tell us about where pop culture might be heading?
How will that balance between artistry and commerce shift? Between creative control and company demands?
And maybe more importantly, how do we, as people who consume this culture, navigate it? How do we balance enjoying the incredible talent and spectacle?
While also being aware of and critically thinking about the systems, the pressures, the ethical questions behind it all.
It's a complex balance, isn't it?
Yeah.
Something fascinating to think about.
Indeed. It encourages us, maybe, to be more thoughtful consumers, to appreciate the artistry, but also see the bigger picture, the human element, and the global forces at play. For a more informed appreciation, really,